It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is a beautiful Wednesday. It's a little too cold, but it is also the final day of January. So here's the thought. We got to suck it up for about one more month, and then things are going to get a lot better weather-wise. Let's check in with the gang. Let's start in Murfreesboro. Hello, Kelly.
What's up, Daniel Breezy?
Nice.
Golly, we're giving the weather forecast every day. You just love it.
I've done it for years.
For years.
You know, when I was in high school, here's what you would hear. 4 inches in Memphis, moving this way. Man, that was music to a BGA student's ears.
Everybody wanted out of school.
They sure did.
And you know, it was back in the day where we didn't have the climate change, and we didn't have the temperature plus the heat index. I mean, I can remember going out when it was the middle of July, and me and my buddies in the neighborhood, and we were going out to play wiffle ball, and it was 98 degrees outside. I don't know why I remember that, but it was 98 degrees, and my parents were saying, hey, stay in. You got to stay in, son. It's a little bit too hot. Get your butt outside. Get out in the heat. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Kelly, we had a freak snowstorm during the day. This would have been February of 75.
Okay.
And BGA closed a little too late. They should have let us out about an hour earlier.
Yeah.
The big problem for the Plaster hookup was it was my day to drive. My mom had this bomb, this gold cutlass thing. I promptly stuck it in a ditch.
Hey, there were some big cars back in the day, man. The Chevrolet Caprice Classics and all that. That's what we had.
What's the song, Billy, what's the song where they talk about the big car, oh gosh.
This is going nowhere.
I can't think of it.
Nowhere.
No, it's a good song, and everybody likes it. And during the commercial break, I'll figure it out. It talks about as big as a Cadillac. There's some line in there about as big as a Cadillac. Anyway.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
No, we're not playing Muhammad Ali. Do you have an update in our future?
I do.
Really?
We're going to start with, of course, Tennessee and everything going on with the NCAA.
Hey, time out. Is that a Murray State Racers? Is that what that is?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Got to rep.
I've already asked the question.
My brother's going there to play baseball, so I got one for Christmas.
What are we doing?
What's wrong with that? I mean,
what
look at George's Titans sweater. He got it back in the 1970s.
I mean, he wears that all the time, but I've never seen the puke yellow Murray Racers.
Yeah, I don't love the yellow.
Now, truthfully, Kelly, weren't they an opponent of yours back then?
Oh, no question, absolutely. One side stadium. There's no question.
What was that?
They just had one stadium side. There's not another side. You always hear George talking about when we're picking on silly underdogs. It's a prerequisite to have. You got to have both sides of a stadium.
Murray does not.
Murray State Murray does not. Now, they may have now, but when I played, they did not.
No, I did a game up there about 2.5 years ago, and they do not. By the way, their basketball program has taken on a little water
They have.
as of late. They have found the Missouri Valley to be a challenge, as has Belmont.
Yep. Big one tonight for Belmont. They got Indiana State. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I mean, not a ton more to talk about with Tennessee, other than that the Attorney Generals of Tennessee and Virginia filed a lawsuit against the NCAA earlier today. The lawsuit claims the NCAA is enforcing rules that unfairly restrict how athletes can commercially use their NIL at a critical juncture in the recruiting calendar. I thought that was interesting, the specific time, and I think they're referring to like the when the portal opens and closes.
Well, let me ask you this. Since the NCAA has not released any info on what it is they believe Tennessee has done wrong or illegally or whatever, how do they know what to sue about?
That's a good point. Both sides are really vague, and I think Tennessee has the edge because the NCAA is the one that started and said, "What are you talking about? Like, what are the rules here? There are no rules, first off." So it feels like the NCAA is walking themselves into potential extinction, is what it kind of feels like.
It's a lot like the bloomin' onion. No rules, just right.
Exactly.
I got me a car. It's as big as a whale. That's some of the words in that song.
I'll do some research.
I got me a car. Okay, keep going.
All right, PGA Tour. They just completed a $3 billion deal amid a lot of these live merger talks. They reached a deal with Strategic Sports Group. It's a group of billionaire sports team owners to infuse up to $3 billion into a new for-profit entity. So PGA Tour Enterprises, that was officially launched today.
I'm confused. I thought that a deal had been struck between Live and the PGA Tour.
It was nothing official. That turned out it was talks. It was all, nothing had ever actually been written in stone.
Because Liam just got another guy yesterday, the Terrell Hatton guy. I mean, he signed for $60 million. So I mean, they're leaving in droves.
Yeah. But I mean, people wrote huge articles about this, about, they've come together and nobody said, wait a minute, this isn't official.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like it was swept under the rug, the fact that it never actually happened. But it feels like PGA is just lagging behind, especially, I mean, of course, financially. But this program's only going to be available to qualified PGA Tour players. So I don't really know. We'll see if it helps them.
I'm a huge golf fan too, and I don't know where all this is going, man. Because I'll be honest with you, like the Dustin Johnsons, the Cameron Smiths, all these guys that are big name PGA Tour guys that went to Live, you don't hear about them anymore, and I'm sure they don't care because they're getting paid a bunch of money. But like, you just don't hear about them anymore, and I'm sure that's what the PGA is trying to do. They're trying to keep their names out of it, but I don't know. It seems like all of them are going to defect at some point.
As long as they're able to play in the big ones, as long as that's available to them, then they're all sitting there saying, screw it, I'm not losing anything.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's to play in the Dubai Classic or the Greater Greensboro Open, who cares?
Yeah, that's correct. You're true. You're right about that, George.
But here is the one thing. I never hear anybody say, so what are you doing this afternoon? I'm watching that Live tournament. I don't ever hear that.
No, ever. I don't ever hear that. I'm not going. I just can't do it, man. I don't know. I have a bad taste in my mouth for all that, man.
It's really strange. I mean, it's probably not another sport that has ever had this happen to their big league. You basically have a competitor built, and then
NFL, AFL. Hello.
I wasn't alive in my lifetime, at least.
NHL, WHA, the World Hockey Association once had Gordie Howe. Oh, it's happened a bunch.
Yeah, but LIV is different than the AFL or the WH. Like, LIV is not.
Billy, here's a little history
You're
lesson.
taking on water, Billy.
You are taking on water.
But have you? So you're just saying you've seen this before. This has happened before.
Sure. The AFL, NFL, what forced the merger? They didn't just get in a room and say, "Oh, the Raiders, welcome, New England. You're going to hire Belichick. Welcome." They didn't do that. They fought like cats and dogs. Joe Namath signing with the Jets instead of the St. Louis Cardinals was the biggest step that gave the AFL the credibility to go toe-to-toe. And then, now, the merger had already been announced, but when his Jets team, JETS, beat Baltimore in the Super Bowl, that was big stuff.
Plus, he called it. He called his shot, Billy. You've seen that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm under
and it's
the
kind of
age.
the same thing with the USFL too. The USFL went out and they drafted Jim Kelly. I mean, he was wanting to go to the NFL,
But,
or didn't want to go to the NFL, or didn't want to go to Buffalo, so he went to the USFL. You know, Herschel Walker did the same thing, and then that league went bottoms up, and they came to the NFL.
Tell me this: you've never LIV. Where does all that money come from? From LIV?
Well, you know where it comes from.
Saudi Arabian oil money.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that how the AFL was started, or the UA?
No, you're trying hard.
I mean,
it's different.
This is obviously
That's what
different.
he's trying to do here.
I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to take the competition factor out of it, which I get it, Billy. I know. Right. I get where you're coming from. I get it.
What he's trying to do is weasel out of having said something stupid and then having to backtrack and having you say, and I quote,
but George,
Billy, you're taking on water.
You're acting like this isn't different than what we, at least financially, where the money is coming from, and these guys that are leaving.
That part's different. Okay, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you outside corner at the knees, but let's not act like this is the first time this stuff's gone on. The AFL NFL thing in the '60s got nasty, nasty. Read a book, Kelly. Help me
do my
here.
research.
Help me here.
YouTube it, Hoss. Get on YouTube and figure it out.
Whatever. All right. We've got a youth movement in Seattle. The Seahawks are expected to hire Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald as their new head coach. He is now the youngest coach in the league.
I would assume that in Seattle, McDonald's will have some sort of a promotion.
It's pretty smart, though.
On the surface, it seems like a good hire. I thought we were going to go Dan Quinn because Quinn had past background. And so now what is left is the dysfunctional Redskins - Commanders - the Magic Johnsons. And they're the only one left that hadn't hired anybody.
And who's on top of that list, Billy? Is it Wade Phillips? Who is it? I mean,
yeah, it's Bum Phillips.
Who do we think is going there?
Who knows? I mean, the Commanders have never been well run, so I know they have a new ownership group, but that feels like a cursed franchise.
You didn't like Dan Snyder? You didn't like Dan Snyder, Billy?
No, I didn't like Mr. Small Stuff.
Nicknamed by the show Little Small Stuff.
Well, we got Belichick still on the market, so you got to wonder if they consider Belichick. But
I think the question is, would he even consider them?
Okay.
Well, right now you don't have much. Like beggars can't be choosy, Hoss.
He's got enough money. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but is he just going to set this? I'm going after Don Shula's record aside.
Well,
I don't think he's a big record guy.
Let you tell it.
Okay, here's the thing. There are two that we all believe are going to come open next year. Philly, Dallas. I believe one of the two would have hired him. Do you?
I think Dallas would have been because of his relationship with Jerry Jones, but I mean, he may want to keep that relationship like it is, friendly instead of being, on the payroll. So I don't know. I would say he would have got a really good shot. I don't know about Philly.
As this goes along, do you think the record, the Don Shula record, winningest coach in NFL history, do you think he's coming to grips with it's not going to happen and throws up his hands and says, is my life just going to be woe is me, I didn't get the record? Or am I just going to say to hell with it and move on with my life?
I know that I would like if I was in those shoes. I don't know how he feels. Obviously, we all got goals, but it wouldn't bother me. I mean, the guy's got more Super Bowl rings than anybody as a head coach. I'd probably tap my hat to you and say, y'all won't see me ever again. I'm out.
Well, Kelly, you mentioned Cowboys. It doesn't obviously look like Belichick's going to be a head coach next year. But if the Cowboys move on from McCarthy, I think he will be an option. At the Senior Bowl, Jerry Jones said, no doubt, he could work with Belichick. He called him a friend. I know him personally. I like him. There's no doubt in my mind we could work together. So it feels like the wheels are turning a little bit. Now, I know that was just a comment off the cuff, but there's no way McCarthy is safe. I mean, his seat is hot.
Okay, don't you all think on Belichick's end that whatever he's thinking, that he is saying, if it doesn't happen next offseason, screw it, I'm done?
You have to think that. I mean, that's just part of being a human being. Like, he's getting older. I mean, he's accomplished everything in that league that you can accomplish. And yeah, if he doesn't get something next offseason, yeah, he's got to throw up his hands and say, you know what? I'm going to enjoy the rest of my life.
Well, like we said yesterday with Andy Reid, I think Belichick looking around, Saban's gone, Carroll's gone. You got a lot of these older coaches, the older guard are just saying, I'm done. And so I think you could potentially – I'm with Kelly. I think if he doesn't have anything next year, he'll probably wrap it up.
Here's the thing. The networks are going to jump to get him. And, what we know is the media Belichick, the Cincinnati. But there's another side of him, and I've seen it before.
Yeah.
When he decides he wants to talk football, that it's not media pestering him.
Yeah.
When he decides he wants to talk football, man, he can be fascinating.
I think TV could be an option.
Oh, I think it's going to be an option.
He was really good. Did y'all see him on game day before Army-Navy?
Yeah.
He did a really good job.
One of the best ones he did was, what was the thing he did with Parcells?
I know what you're talking about.
The two bills.
Yeah.
The two bills.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
He did a 30. He did one with Saban, too, where it was kind of behind the scenes. But could you imagine? I know, Kelly, did you bring this up? Saban and Belichick podcast or something?
Yeah. That was John McClain. He brought that up.
Yeah. God, that'd be unbelievable.
I mean, I don't think he's going to end up doing the North Texas Sam Houston game on the college level, but I do think the networks are going to offer him some stuff with some real meat on the bone, because he could be very good at that.
Yeah. Well, we had a big night in college basketball. I know we're going to get into this here in this next
After the break.
After the break. South Carolina upsets Tennessee. Ole Miss held on late against Mississippi State, so we'll get to that. And then must win for the Preds tonight.
To Jeff's question from yesterday, who is Ole Miss beaten? Mississippi State. That was a hell of a game. We will talk about it and more after the break. Get those standings ready in the SEC. We're going to talk some hoops when we come back.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. Billy, help me here. Put the standings up right now of the top 6 teams in the SEC as of the moment. I have not often felt like this or thought what I'm about to say. Is it possible today that the SEC is the best basketball conference in America today?
I think they could be. Big 12 is stacked as well. The Big East is really good. But yeah, George, right now, I mean, I'm hearing they could get 9 teams in the tournament from a lot of people. Now, that probably won't happen. But right now, I think there are 9 teams in Lenardi's tournament in his bracket.
Are they?
So I want to say,
Yeah.
at least 8 right now, maybe the 9th on the bubble. But
Kelly, you willing to go that far?
I had somebody a couple of weeks ago on our show. I forget who it was, but I think that maybe it was Taylor Burnett. I think the SEC is, it's arguable, obviously, but I think from what I saw last night, man, like South Carolina's pretty good. They're 18-3, and Ole Miss is pretty good too.
Okay.
So I think people are kind of counting. I don't know if you're counting those guys out from an 18-3 record, but like Tennessee was ranked 5th in the country and just like they had nothing for South Carolina. Now they missed a bunch of shots last night, and And the Dalton Connect kid got him back in the game there at the end when he hit a couple of contested threes, which was pretty unbelievable. But I think from top to bottom, I think the SEC is the best conference in the country this year.
Okay, let's start with what happened last night. I made the comment, first of all, let me just say I was wrong about one thing, whether I ever said it or not. I didn't think anybody would beat Tennessee at Thompson Bowling. South Carolina has now proven me wrong. Yesterday, I asked Tony the question, is Tennessee getting a little too reliant on Dalton Connect? And having watched the game last night from beginning to end, I now feel even stronger that Rick Barnes's next piece of coaching with this team has got to be to get the other four back into it. They cannot just stand around and ask this guy to be Superman. And by the way, some of the shots he hit at the end of the game were obscene. The one in particular, the last one, was ridiculous.
Crazy.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they're such a different team when he's on the floor. When he's not out there on offense, they're just not. They don't move as well. They're not spaced out. They don't. So and South Carolina is good. They should be ranked.
Oh, they're very good.
They looked like a top 20 team. But in the tournament, you get to the even round of 32, Sweet 16. Every team, especially if they keep surviving and advancing, is really good. They're well coached. I thought Lamont Parrish outcoached Rick Barnes. And, whether it was subs or rotations or whatever. But Tennessee, this is a sign that I'm not saying they're going downhill from here. I'm just saying if this happens in the tournament, there won't be any excuses. Like Dalton Connect had 32 points.
Right.
Like he did his part.
It feels like they're all saying, go get it done for us.
Yep. And you can't do that.
Because I'm looking around at the other four, and to me, they're just kind of sitting back waiting on Superman to put on his cape. And he did at the end. Good Lord, he was unbelievable. That game could have ended up being an 8 to 10 point game. Instead, he kept hitting shots that had to scare the crap out of South Carolina. But man, great win for them. Kelly, I don't know about you. I didn't think anybody would beat Tennessee at Thompson Bowling.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I'm kind of like you, man. Just watching the game, watching them play Vanderbilt, and then watching them play South Carolina last night. It just seems like I don't think the other guys have changed, but they understand that this guy's kind of different. The Connect kid's kind of different, and they're just that you're kind of right. They're sitting back watching him, saying he'll make a shot for us. He'll make a shot for us. Vest can be. I don't know if he's lost anything, but those guys, when you get a star like they've got on the team, sometimes it kind of affects other guys in different ways. And it seems like that's what's happening. Like when he's not on the floor, it seems like they're struggling to score points. And I don't know, man. I think the Ziegler kid's really good. But just like I asked Tony yesterday, who's going to step up in these games when Dalton Connect is not scoring 32 points? Like last night in the first half, he was kind of off. The start of the second half, he was a little bit off. And then he got kind of heated there towards the end of the game, and it was already too late because it just looked like it did. And I heard the announcer say this. It looked like Tennessee was a little tired, which you get that way in basketball. And sometimes when teams are hitting shots, it seemed like every time Tennessee made a run to get close, South Carolina would come down and hit a big three. And then, in basketball, you guys know that. Sometimes that just happens. There's nothing you can do. When you got teams that are hot, that are tough, it looked like South Carolina is a pretty mentally tough team. And going into Thompson Bowling yesterday did not bother them one bit.
Yeah, I think about Tennessee, George, is if they're not able to go to him late and he gives them a bucket right away when they want it, what do? And, he gave them the buckets late, but South Carolina was good enough to do just enough defensively. I was really impressed with Taylon Cooper, a guy that
absolutely.
Mark Griffin talked about as one of the really good players in the league right now. And he's not as tall as Dalton Connect. Kelly, I don't know I think he's number 55 for South Carolina. He was matched up with Connect all night. and he did a really good job. And I don't know that I've seen somebody guard Dalton Connect like that. So, especially against the defensive teams, they're going to have to figure something else out.
I think there was a comment made, Dane Bradshaw may have made it, something to the effect that what South Carolina wanted was to say, okay, if you're going to get your 30, it's because you'll attempt 30 field goals. And while that may not have necessarily happened, for a lot of the game, he was fairly quiet. If 32 can ever be quiet.
Yeah, he wasn't as efficient. Against Vandy, he was like 13 of 19 or something like that. Way more efficient than he was against South Carolina. He did miss some, and they all missed some bunnies just wide open.
I think Barnes has got to go to the drawing board and ask himself and his staff the question, have we become too reliant on Dalton Connect? I think the answer is yes. I think that's becoming a problem.
Yeah.
Now, let me run by and see what you all think about this. One of the reasons to me that I love the fact that SEC basketball is getting to this point, because it's always been a football league first, and depending on the commissioner, basketball was just something you do until spring football. In the 80s, late 80s, when it was a power forward league, some great power forwards.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, I'm talking about Livingston Chapman and then you get the stuff at Georgia, Dominique Wilkins. That's earlier 80s. Dale Ellis. You had some great power forwards, and then you had Pitino come into the league, and that gave it a shot in the arm of national stuff. Here are 4 games that ESPN has gotten to show that I think have been instant classics. The first one was the first game of the year, Kentucky at Florida. It took everything Kentucky had that night to win, and a lot of teams would not have walked out of the O'Connell Center with a win, but Kentucky did. That was a hell of a game.
Yeah, it was.
That's number one. Number two was this thing last Saturday where Georgia comes from 20 back at Florida and takes it to overtime. I don't know who saw it and who didn't. Hell of a game.
I saw the score. I was keeping track of it. I couldn't believe that.
Try this one. Third one. We knew this one would be Alabama-Auburn.
Yeah.
Great game.
That was unbelievable.
Now, a lot of people wouldn't have paid any attention to Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Instant classic.
Ooh, that was a really good game last night.
I mean.
And when's the last time you could have said that about an Ole Miss, Mississippi State basketball game?
It was a terrific game. Mississippi State did a lot of great things in the game. They had this one little spurt to start the second half where they got outscored 10-0. Other than that, truthfully, they were the better team.
Is this George Billy? Is this Chris Beard's first year at Ole Miss? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And
first. That dude can coach, man.
He can. And he's got kind of a group of misfits. Like he had to really scrounge them together in about a month and a half, 2 months, really. And what are they in the standings, George?
5-3 and 18-3 overall.
Yeah. So he's doing just enough right now. He's getting the most out of them. He usually has defensive teams, but offensively they're pretty explosive. But
last night it was offense that won.
It was
a lot of threes.
Yeah.
Won by about that much.
But it seems like you're getting a better group of coaches, like with him. I mean, you got some dudes in the SEC now. Rick Barnes, you got Calipari, you got Bruce Pearl, you got this Lamont Paris guy that's at South Carolina's done a really good job. I mean, you're getting some outstanding dudes that are coaching basketball in this league now.
Even at Florida and Georgia, Mike White left Florida, went to Georgia. Yeah. Florida has a good one in Todd Golden as well. They're all younger for the most part. There's, hopefully, Kelly, these coaches stay and, become kind of deans. Calipari, or is it Rick Barnes that's the oldest? in the league.
I
right
would
now.
think it's Barnes.
I think it's Barnes. But, these coaches.
Barnes or how old's Calipari?
I don't know, but I think he's younger
They're
than
close.
Barnes. Yeah. But it just shows you in this NIL era, you can do it quick. NIL has really helped basketball, I think. I don't know that it's really hurt. I mean, you just got to wake up and you got to hop into these times, and the coaches that do it survive.
So the likelihood is you've got a fifth one of these instant classics coming Saturday night at Rupp.
Well,
because the atmosphere will be.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Well, Ole Miss has another home game. They got Auburn Saturday, which will be a huge one. Ole Miss had a record crowd last night.
Yeah.
At that new, beautiful arena they got.
About 10-6.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Jerry Stackhouse mouthed off to people when he got the job, that he could out-coach them. How's that working? Now, don't get me wrong. I do think he can coach some. I don't think he's God's gift to coaching, and he certainly isn't God's gift to how to build a program. But I think he came in here with the belief that the coaching in this league was not all that good. Well, think again, because they're cramming it up your butt.
He's wrong, because that coaching is getting better with each year that goes along, and you can tell it by the way the SEC is playing this year.
You have to recruit. I mean, the off season should be just as busy as the regular season if you're a college football or basketball coach.
And so you're sitting there. Go back to those 6. Right behind it right now is Georgia.
Yep.
That's kind of come out of nowhere. And at the bottom of the league, you've got 2 teams that right now have combined for 0 for 12. Missouri, Vandy.
No, 14 actually. I think they're not both 0 and 7.
0 and 6.
Point stands.
Thank you.
Probably about to be. Missouri plays Arkansas tonight. Arkansas is like 1 and 6.
Yeah, Arkansas is the other mystery.
Yeah, and here's the deal. I mean, even with Arkansas, they've had some success the last couple of years, and they've got such a talented team. But just like you talked about, George, we've said it before on here. When you have situations that are going on, it happened in Texas A&M in football. There's something going on with the team and the locker room that just is not meshing right now, because they got plenty of good players that are linked. They got a lot of length and they can play, but they're just not putting it together. And it's something behind the scenes that we don't know.
Look right here at this list: South Carolina and Ole Miss. Carolina number 2, Ole Miss number 3. If you remember, George, Kelly, both those teams played each other on Wednesday night of the SEC tournament last year, and they're all the way up to the top of the pack now.
Yeah.
So that tells you
can get it done quick.
It is very possible.
So you can argue, look, if you were to come back to me and say, hey, the Big 12's better, or the ACC's better, or whatever, we may be splitting hairs. But this is what I do know. It's been a long time since SEC basketball has been this much fun. There are some unbelievable games.
There are.
And if anybody saw Ole Miss, Mississippi State last night, that was one of them.
It was awesome.
Woo.
Crowds are a big part of it, too. The fans have hopped on board. And the ADs making these hires, like Kelly said, with these coaches.
If you had Ole Miss -1, you were sweating.
There were some interesting calls late in that one.
Yes, there were.
I thought Ole Miss was
I didn't say the officiating is at the same level.
Well, I thought the refs were about to get bombarded by some students' drinks for a second.
Yes.
At the end there, they ended up just throwing pom-poms, thank goodness.
Okay, after the break, more standings setting up a big night locally. We'll talk about it next.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. By the way, Love Shack Baby.
There we go.
52s. Are you serious, George?
You don't like the song?
I do like the song. I wondered if that's where you were going. I didn't think it would be the B-52s.
I had forgotten. I got me a car. It's as big as a whale.
It seats about 20.
Right. And that was the way my mom's Gold Bomb Cutlass. I got me a car. It's as big as a whale. And I put the damn thing in the ditch. Yeah. Okay. Kelly, there's sort of a joke that I use every night around Predator home games in the 2 rows around me. And some of those people have been there a while. I'll always say to a friend of mine behind me, we're in a pennant race. Now, normally that's a baseball term, but look at these standings of where these teams are right now. The points are all the way to the left. Look at how close this thing is. 2 of these teams ultimately will get in the playoffs, and the other 5 will twiddle their thumbs and go home. So that, Kelly, in hockey, For instance, tonight, Preds host the LA Kings. What is really important is to come away with a win in regulation where you get 2 points, the Kings get none. An overtime victory, yeah, it's nice, but it's a little like kissing your sister. It feels like a tie.
Because you do get you do. I was looking at that today. So you do get points for overtime, like the Preds the other night when they went into overtime, they got a point, correct?
They got a point for getting to overtime. And to be honest, played a great first period. The second period was abysmal. And frankly, down the stretch in the third period, they got the hell beat out of them. Only UC's brilliance got them that point. So tonight, what they desperately need going into the All-Star break, this is the final game until February the 10th. They need a regulation win against the LA Kings. That's what they need.
Yeah, so if they were to just say if they were to lose tonight, George, so that gives them they don't get any points, so that gives the Kings 56 points, correct?
Right.
And then would they exchange spots?
Yes. And so,
wow, yeah,
Kelly, they got a big break last night. I mean, you talk about a sport where, you know, I'm used to doing a lot of scoreboard watching with the Braves. Baseball is watching the scoreboard. It's every night. But this thing forces you for about the next 2.5 months to check out all these teams. Now, mentally, whether it's right or not, I have X'd Minnesota out. I've just said until they get a little closer, I'm not worrying about Minnesota. And so there are nights where these teams play each other and you don't know who you're rooting for.
Yeah, because there's so many.
Crazy, George. Because Billy, sorry, but this is like playoff hockey right now, correct? This was even before the All-Star break. Big games
tonight. At least on the ice, we'll have a playoff fever, kind of a playoff feel to it, because they both know what's at stake. Right. It's huge, and so 10 weeks of this from here to the end of the season is insane. Now, it may also be a little early, but when I watch from time to time the NHL Network, they're talking about this a bunch.
Yeah, I don't know that has this ever happened with this many teams in the race. I'd love to kind of compare. You know, maybe we can ask Mark McGee about it. You know, eventually, but because George, you say Minnesota, you know, for the moment they're pretty. You know, they got a ways to go.
In baseball, they'd be 3.5 games out.
Right, and you know, there's just so many teams battling, and for the Preds, if you don't win tonight, you're only making it harder on yourself because whenever you play any of these teams on this screen, you need to win. For
instance, Kelly, I'm not going to use the term must win because if they lose, I'm going to turn around and say, well, you know, the world isn't ending. Yeah. But it would look a whole hell of a lot better if they did win in regulation. Then their first game out of the break is Arizona. Arizona 5 behind. You know, if you want to really get down to it, you could say there are 4 teams right now who are right on each other's tailpipe, and only 2 of them are going to get in.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy, man. I still am learning about this hockey stuff, man. But like over the last couple of years, or you know, last 5 or so years, haven't they kind of ruled the Kings? Haven't they kind of beat the Kings up a little bit?
They've had really good success against the LA Kings. Hopefully that'll matter tonight. That said, LA Kings are a slight favorite tonight. So, you know, it's hard to know, but it creates unbelievable stuff. If you're rooting for your team, and certainly I'm rooting for the Preds, I'll admit it, at a timeout last night in the Ole Miss Mississippi State game, which I was vitally interested in, I turned to the NHL Network, which had the Blues game on. And the Preds got a huge break last night when Columbus, in my mind, came out of nowhere and won in St. Louis.
Should be fun.
When you're willing to pay attention, when you're willing to go check out the other during a timeout of Ole Miss, Mississippi State, must be getting pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's getting interesting. That's what I was about to say, man. I can't imagine though being a professional athlete and like I know you got to keep playing games, but like you're in the hunt for it. So you just like this is just it's building, like the pressure's building each and every game because you want to just give yourself a chance at the end of the season. But like seems like it's awful early, man. This is before the All-Star break to be worrying about that. You can't worry about that as a player. You just got to keep playing. But man, these games are big this early in the season.
No, but I'll tell you what I do believe, Kelly. I think players who say I don't pay any attention to the scoreboard, bull. I don't believe that. I know they do in baseball, and I believe they do in hockey.
Shoot, I used to watch it, man. You watch, you know exactly what's going on, man. When you watch Sports Center, you know before the games, you got a late game in the NFL. You're looking up there at the scoreboard to see who won, who lost, who played good. You know exactly what's going on in your league. I promise you.
Okay. After the break, we'll have stat of the day. Can you tell us what sport is represented today?
Football.
Okay. In theory, that would seem to give us half a chance. And then one of my favorite people in the broadcasting industry, my boy Wes Durham, play-by-play voice of the Atlanta Falcons. And if you watch the ACC network, does a lot of ACC basketball, three-man crew that has included Jim Boeheim. I caught their act a week ago. We will talk about all of that and more when we come back. You'll want to hear this interview.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Top of the hour on a Wednesday. Coming up, Wes Durham. Talk a little Falcons, maybe a little college hoops as well. But first, stat of the day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, let's see what we got for the guys. Sam Laporta, Lions tight end, became just the second tight end in the last 20 years to make the Pro Bowl as a rookie, joining what other player?
Oh, wow. Okay, Kelly, let me ask this. Was Gronk very well known as a rookie?
I don't think so.
So you don't think it's Gronk? I don't either.
I don't think it's Gronk. No.
Could it have been the late Aaron Hernandez?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Maybe Aaron Hernandez. I'm not sure. Tony Gonzalez. I mean, he was at Kansas City.
Right. That's a good guess. That's one we definitely need to hold on to for a minute.
The last 20 years to make the Pro Bowl as a rookie.
It would not have been Frank Wycheck because as a rookie, he was a Washington Redskin.
Right.
And they were about to cut him. Let's think about some tight ends that were really making a difference. I don't think Buffalo.
I'm thinking about somebody with Dallas Clark.
Dallas Clark is a good one. That's a really good one.
Billy, are we overthinking this?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's more recent.
But our intelligence, I mean, we've come with some good people.
Yeah. This is a hard one.
Would it be Travis Kelce?
Oh, gosh.
Said in the last 20 years.
Are you ready to give this up?
Yeah, I'm not sure who it would be, George, to be honest with you. Have we hit one of the names, Billy?
No.
Oh, no.
Oh, hold on. Let's think about this again.
Okay. In Pittsburgh, really would not have been tight end, would it? I can't think of anybody Steeler-wise. Cincinnati? Cleveland? Dallas? Boy, I don't know.
I mean, it could have been Dallas. Let's think about Dallas.
Why don't we just dump it in Wes's lap? He's the NFL announcer.
Yeah, I agree.
We should expect him to know.
Okay.
Bring him up there. Hello, Wes.
Wait a second. It's Bart Durham, not Wes Durham? I'm sorry.
I'm sure there's a tie between the two. So, can you see this question?
The question, this season, Sam Laporta became just the second tight end in the last 20 years to make the Pro Bowl as a rookie, joining what other player?
Let's give him some that we threw out there that we don't think it is.
Okay.
We're pretty certain it is not.
I'll say this. Wes should know this.
It's Tony Gonzalez is the answer.
That's what I said. I said Tony Gonzalez, but I don't think it's Tony Gonzalez.
It's Tony Gonzalez.
Go ahead and show him.
Wes is
Jason Witten.
Bring him down a little bit.
Oh,
wow.
Well, let me say this, George, Kelly. First of all, great to see you guys.
Yes,
Same here.
Second of all, is Kyle Pitts a tight end? I'm sorry. I thought he was a slot flex. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Good.
Using some big NFL terminology there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So,
don't you have to put your hand on the ground and block somebody to be a tight end? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Gonna get you in trouble.
No.
So, Kelly, years ago when Wes came to Nashville,
years
ago,
30 of them, by the way, 31 this year.
God, we really didn't know each other very well, but it was arranged that Wes and I were both going to ride back from Rupp Arena with Ron Bargatze.
Unbelievable.
And I can say that 3-hour and 15-minute trip felt like about 20 minutes. And the other thing is, Wes, thank God it was not taped.
Yeah, fact.
Yes.
We could put it in a book now, though. I think it qualifies for the book.
Oh, look, yes.
We could change the names. It'd be a hell of a book. And we could actually change the names and make a TV movie out of it.
Absolutely.
So, anyway.
So I caught a week ago your act on the ACC network in a 3-man crew,
right,
with Jim Boeheim being the third in there.
Yeah.
First of all, on TV, how hard in basketball is a 3-man booth?
In this particular case, it's not very hard. I think when I went to television 10 years ago, almost 11 now, I quickly drew the analogy that television was just a bigger team game, George. And, what you're trying to do in television is the same thing you're trying to do in radio. You've only got 3 or 4 people involved in the full radio package. You got 30 some involved in the television package. And teamwork is really important. And that's been the number one thing for me in the last 10 years and change has been, how good can your team be? And for me, this team that we're doing with what I call the Boeheim show, he hates that, but that's what I call it. Because Corey Alexander, who is a terrific basketball analyst at the college level and does some NBA stuff as well. Corey and I have worked together for between the Raycom, Fox, and now ESPN ACC network. Corey and I worked together almost a decade together.
Yeah.
And so we've got a rhythm. And we knew with Jim, he's forgotten more basketball than we know. And Corey knows a lot. But Jim's forgotten all that. I mean, Jim is an unbelievable storyteller and recall of the game itself. So we just decided to try and share the ball as much as possible. And we're getting ready to do our 4th one next Wednesday night. We'll have Notre Dame at Duke on the ACC network about 9 o'clock Eastern time. And then we're going to do one more regular season game in Atlanta with Clemson and Georgia Tech. And then I believe we're going to get a couple games of the ACC tournament in Washington. So it's been a delightful, delightful time. Jim has just been incredible, incredibly gracious. And for a guy who coached as long as he did, George and Kelly, he is somebody who has been incredibly approachable by the public in his retirement and incredibly honest. Like, Coach, we miss you. Do you miss it? And he not one bit. He does not miss it, not an inch. Man, that man walked out and does not care. He's fine to go to practice, Kelly, 2 or 3 days a week for 15, 20 minutes and see you.
The other thing is, and he's bound to have known this, that you're not just some, averaging 15 points and 9 rebounds. That you like to have, like me, you like to have some fun,
right?
Poke a little bit. And were you sure early on that he'd be okay with that?
Yeah, because I had gotten to know, believe it or not, I got to know his sons, Buddy and Jimmy, who played for him because they were on the old Packer and Durham show on a regular basis. And Buddy especially is a little bit of I think I can say this now in this medium you broadcast on, Buddy's a bit of a smart ass like you was. And so
it takes one to know one.
It does. Yeah. Got to be an All-American in something. That's a good one to be in. I think that what you're looking at there is he knew, and most importantly, Jim's wife, Julie, knew that, I was not somebody they had just pulled in out of sportscaster camp to start doing the games. I mean, I had a history of the ACC. I certainly had an appreciation for what he had done at Syracuse and, certainly thought the world of his 2 boys because they were terrific on our show and really good kids. So at the end of the day, we were pretty comfortable together, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was grateful for that. And then, like I say, Corey was all in. And then we have a terrific producer, Alex Farmartino, who ironically produced our primetime ACC network football package, is the producer on these. And it's been a lot of fun. And we'll have some fun at Duke next Tuesday, or next Wednesday night rather, because as you may recall, that's a place where he got thrown out. He got thrown out in Cameron and lost his coat and almost threw his coat in the seat. He got helped out after a bad call by an SEC official, ACC official, Tony Green. Bad call, Tony Green. And Jim got thrown out of the game. And so you can be fairly rest assured that we're going to run the clip of him getting thrown out next Wednesday night. So.
Kelly, Wes's father, the late, great Woody Durham, had been North Carolina's play-by-play voice forever. Wes, I know somewhere up there, he's seeing this, and there's a big smile on his face. I'm positive of that.
Yeah, we've had George, you'll appreciate this knowing me as long as you have. This has been the first, the last couple of years as I got back into play-by-play full time. The last couple of years have been a bit of a more emotional roller coaster in terms of just, you stop and go, oh boy, that's exactly what Dad would have done, that kind of thing. And my dad, Kelly, to kind of close this loop, there was an old basketball coach in the ACC named Bones McKinney, who used to wear a seatbelt on the bench so he didn't get thrown out in the 1960s. And Bones left basketball coaching because he basically developed ulcers. And he thought, well, if I can't coach basketball, I'll just do television. And he ended up doing television with my dad. This was in the 60s before my dad started his career at North Carolina. And it's funny now because here I am with Jim Boeheim, who basically quit coaching because he's tired of the system and he'd run his race, if you will. And it's been fun he told me and Alex, our producer, a story at dinner in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago about being an assistant for Roy Danforth at Syracuse in the 70s and going to see Al McGuire and Marquette open the season, believe it or not, Plaz, against Tennessee. Okay. And Ray Mears was coaching Tennessee, and Tennessee was going to be good, and Marquette was good, and it was like 72 or 71, somewhere along in there. And they opened the season, and he went to see Al McGuire because Jim was going to scout the game, right? They were going to play Tennessee, I guess, at some point. And he saw Al McGuire. Now, the game starts at 7 o'clock. He saw Al McGuire at 2, and Al said, let's go get lunch. Imagine a coach now saying, let's go get lunch at 2 o'clock on a game day.
Yep.
And he and McGuire went and had lunch, and then next thing you know, they went to some gym and worked out and did all. It's like 5:30, and Jim said, "Don't you need to go to the game?" I said, "I will get there." And a 7 o'clock game, Al McGuire walked in the locker room, and his team was already kind of dressed and out shooting around and so forth. And Al wrote like 4 things up on the board. Jim said, and they went out there, and next thing you know, they're leading Tennessee like 41-10 in the first half. He said they're just unbelievable. And Jim looked at me and goes, see how much the business has changed? And I thought, yeah, no kidding. But his recall of stories, his recall of players is just incredible. Just incredible.
So, Kelly, in a minute, I'm going to let you ask a bunch of the Falcons questions.
Oh, boy.
But I want you to know what you're dealing with Wes. Okay? Years ago, Georgia Tech had a TV package that Wes helped me for a couple of years to end up being the TV guy doing Georgia Tech football on CSS, your source for cheap sports.
And really, Kelly, the bottom line was it allowed Plaster to come to Atlanta on somebody else's dime to watch Braves games and then do Georgia Tech football.
So
let's get to the real bottom line of the issue.
Absolutely the truth.
So on a Saturday morning, the week before Georgia Tech's opening game, okay, I have just learned I'm going to do this 3 days earlier. So I come down for this scrimmage, which, by the way, I see this guy arms and legs, and it's Calvin Johnson.
He's pretty good.
And I'm like, oh, my God, I don't remember any of these where I've broadcast. Anyway, at the end, Wes brings Chan Gailey, the coach at Georgia Tech, over.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, this is George Plaster. This is Coach Gailey. And he was gracious enough to say to me, I really appreciate you're caring enough to come down here.
Mm-hmm.
And Wes just burst the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and goes, look, let me be honest. The only reason he's down here is because the Braves are home tonight and tomorrow. So here Coach Gailey looks at me and he goes, is that true?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's sort of.
And then, like years later, who was sitting behind you at a Braves game?
Shane Gailey.
Right.
And I went up.
So what's the
remember
problem?
me?
What's the problem, Kelly?
No, there
right?
was none.
There's no problem. Right?
George talks about the Atlanta Braves, and it makes me want to. I mean, I'm sure you're a Braves guy too, but it makes me want to throw up sometimes because he talks so much about the Atlanta Braves. I want to throw up in my mouth. You know?
I understand. Yeah, and I appreciate the passion. I do. And I was with Mark Bowman Sunday afternoon, George, who writes for MLB.com, headed to spring training in a couple of weeks. I asked Bowman,
read him.
And I asked Bowman, he said, we're going to win they'll win 100 games. I said, okay. And then, Gordon is my guy. That's my guy. He followed me at Georgia Tech. Brandon and I have been friends. And that smart-ass Frank Coor, you know him. I mean, God almighty. He's negotiated now where I jokingly told him, I said, I think you're doing 24 games this year. Is that about right?
If that.
He said, well, we got kids. I said, yeah, and you're a scratch handicap, so quit lying.
Right.
He's got golf courses to play, so that's all right. No, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the organization. I'm a huge fan. I will tell you this. I am a huge Brian Snicker guy. Huge. Yeah. Love that guy.
Good man.
Let me tell you. And the players they have, and look, I'll be honest with you. Here's my hot stove take on it. You know how many I go to like 4 live games a year, maybe. And I watch a bunch of them on TV now that BG's doing the games. But I will tell you this. If Chris Sale stays healthy, that will be the steal of the year. Because I think they have no issues. I think they're
it's a big if.
Well, and you know what? The Boston people, and I'm a Red Sox guy on the back end, Kelly, because of Veritek, Garcia Parra, and those guys. When I came to Atlanta, those guys were working through the minors, and I got to know them. And so then when they hit it in Boston, we had – at one point, Georgia Tech had 4 guys on the everyday lineup of the Boston Red Sox for like 2 years.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Crazy.
And so, but I still talk to some guys in Boston, and the funny part about that is they all say the same thing. If Sale's healthy, you're going to be in great shape.
By the way, I asked Jeff one time, I said, why do you love Snitker so much? And you know what his answer was? The same reason you love C.M. Newton.
Yep.
I've never thought about it that way, but there are some similarities. Anyway, Kelly, from one smart aleck to another, say hello to Wes.
I think the last time I met Wes when Middle played Georgia Tech that day, and and Middle actually beat Georgia Tech. And
Benny Cunningham, is Cunningham still running? Cunningham's still running, isn't he? I think he just scored again.
Yes, he is. Well, he played a couple. He played like 5 or 6 years in the National. He's pretty good. We couldn't block y'all, but like, if the referees wouldn't have kept y'all in the game, it'd have been worse than that.
Oh my God! Well, and by the way, you know what happened after that game? Georgia Tech's defensive coordinator got fired.
Oh, did he? Who was it?
Al Groh.
Al Groh. Yeah.
Al Groh got fired. They made a change after the Middleton. That was my last year doing the games. 2000. That was the fall of 2012.
Yeah,
Great
I
win
remember.
for Middle. And by the way, I'm thrilled that Stock has ended up in Tallahassee with Mike Norvell. That'll be a terrific move for Norvell.
What is Coach Stock going to do? I mean, is he part of recruiting? What is his title? Do you know?
He is director of offensive recruiting, is what I understand. And I don't know how Mike Norvell's org chart works on that side of the house. I know how his coaching org chart works better, but on that side, I'm guessing he's going to be part recruiting, part player personnel, part develop. A lot of these colleges at this level now, the big schools, are going to a analyst / player personnel, almost like a pseudo small version of an NFL front office. Yeah. And it has to do with player development from underneath, the kids you sign from high school, the portal kids. How does that go? The GM is oftentimes the guy that talks to the collectives, depending on certain schools. Sometimes it's somebody else, but the GM is the one that basically – player personnel guy is the one that's often involved in the collective. It's involved in the depth chart. It's a lot. But I think former head coaches are a very valuable piece to programs like Florida State. And Rick, needless to say, got a lot of passion for the place. And I think it's a good move for him, too.
He knows how to beat Miami, too.
And it seems like I talk about this every time with somebody, but I just want to hear your deal on it because Jim Boeheim said he was done with the system. What's your take on the NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff? Give me your take.
I may not have enough time. Well, let me tell you what I think the highlights are. How we got here is probably the bigger issue than why we're here. We got here in part and parcel because in 2020, the chancellors and presidents of these major colleges decided to play football and not surrender the television money. I mean, those are the facts. If they don't play the games in 20, the schools don't get their TV money. So the chancellors and presidents put their flag in the ground right then and there, despite what everybody ever says. They elected to play football during the pandemic. Now, I'm not saying that was right or wrong. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is they made a business decision to do that. So that's number one. And then let me qualify Mark Emmert's 12-year run as the president of the NCAA by saying it's the biggest example of abdication of leadership I've ever seen. How's that in major college athletics?
Yeah.
Outside of him getting paid, I'm not sure what else went well. And he made a lot of money as the president of the NCAA. And he had good seats at the Final Four. The second part of this is that Emmert made the decision, Kelly, when the threat of players moving through the portal and they were having to deal with so much paperwork on waivers that they created the portal. Freedom of movement. And all this happened during the pandemic, remember. They created that freedom of movement leading into the 1920 season. And then when the pandemic hit and we had all the things in our society happen, they then realized, oh my goodness, if we don't open up the gates here, these kids are all going to sue us and we will lose, right? And the kids would take the NCAA to court. They were all going to lose. So they just said, well, we'll open the portal. And they put some pocket restrictions on it, which now obviously you can transfer 3 times and nobody cares. Because they, again, what was going to happen? They were going to get sued. So what they do? We don't want to deal with a lawsuit anymore, so we'll just let you go. And then the last part, the NIL, the NCAA didn't want any part of that. They didn't want to touch it. Why? Because they would lose. And so they opened it up and kicked it down to the states. Meanwhile, they were going to shoot for the highest court in the land on these other court cases where there were lawsuits involved. So while they were kicking the NIL can down the state path where they'll let every state kind of make the determination, they didn't ask any coaches. They didn't ask any athletic directors. They didn't fund anybody anything. By the way, they started handing out, Emmert also handed out COVID coupons, which allowed you to replay years because he felt bad that you couldn't play. So did any of the schools get any extra money to pay for the scholarship cost in those COVID years? Absolutely not. Were schools being financially strapped? Yes. Why did the presidents and chancellors play football? Because they were being told that they were going to have to give free years of eligibility too, right? It's crazy.
Right.
So at the end of the day, those 3 things, the transfer portal, the COVID coupons, and the NIL. By the way, the NCAA at last count has yet to win a lawsuit against anybody involved who sued them for profit, okay? And if you remember correctly, the Austin case went all the way to the Supreme Court where Mark Emmert took a 9-0 butt whipping in D.C., worst road loss the NCAA has ever taken. And Kavanaugh's decision in summary that he wrote basically said that the organization should be destroyed. That was Brett Kavanaugh's decision in summary. So I don't know what we're doing. We're now down to where, by the way, George, have you heard of anybody flunking out of school recently?
No, but I came damn close.
No. I'm talking about like football, basketball, anybody who might be receiving a dime of NIL. Have you heard of anybody flunking out of school?
Nobody.
Neither have I.
The academic achievement is at an all-time high.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, and maybe I'm the old guy to get off my lawn type deal here, but there is still some value, I think, somewhere in this process to the degree and to the academic mission of these institutions. But I will also say this, Kelly, and this kind of puts the close on where I think Boeheim and some others are. Some coaches didn't sign up for this.
True.
I mean, the older guys, Jim is 70 some odd years old. He didn't sign up for this. Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams didn't sign up for this.
Jay Wright.
Nick Saban didn't sign up for this. He was good at it, but he didn't sign up for it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's some younger coaches who've gotten into this who, okay, I'll go run that race a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure they've signed up for it. And I don't know that we're going to see anybody touch like what Nick did at Alabama, what Jim did at Syracuse, or Mike at Duke. And, it's a shame in some respect, and we better get ready for it because you cannot put that genie back in the bottle. It's not going to happen. We got to figure out a new path and a new way. I give Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti and Jim Phillips and, Brett Yormark at the Big 12. I give them a lot of credit. They're trying. We got to try something here. And we're getting ready for another big Titanic change in college athletics. It's inside of 3 to 5 years, in my opinion. A massive one. Massive.
Yeah, we could probably talk a whole show about this, but let me change subjects, man. I want to know. I want to go to football. I want to go to your Atlanta Falcons. I want to know why. Well, what was the deal with Bill Belichick, man? I mean, that was the only job that he went after. I mean, they hired Raheem Morris, which Raheem Morris has already been a head coach. But have you heard the deal with Bill Belichick? Why? What was the perception? What went on in the meeting? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I don't know, George. You got all sorts of tricks on this show, man. We start throwing pictures up.
Pictures.
Like listen, man.
Billy Dare. Billy, show. Let
Billy.
Us know you're there.
Hey, Billy. Good to see you, man. Where
Listen,
are you broadcasting from, Billy? It looks like it might be some sort of watering hole that Plaster owes a bill to.
Fordyce Center in Bellevue.
Oh, nice. I like that. I used to live in Bellevue back in the day. Yes.
Billy would love to send you a resume.
Well, if I had jobs, Billy, I'd be welcoming the resumes right away. Kelly, to answer your question with Bill Belichick, I think Bill Belichick is an acquired taste, and I don't know enough about the specifics other than they've said they met twice. Okay. But I know this: Atlanta's a better job today than it was 3 years ago when Arthur Smith got here, and that's because of what Arthur did and what Terry Fontenot did as the GM, and Terry's still here. I also know this, and this is not from anybody related to the Falcons, but in talking to the people in Boston and in Foxborough, Bill Belichick taking this job, there's a question about what you want Bill Belichick to do and what does Bill want to do. And based on some of the tea leaves that I've been given, I think you're trying to sort out whether Bill wants not only to coach, but also to be in player personnel. And here's the other thing, too. There's a lingering reason that Bill wants to coach. He wants 15 more wins. He wants to pass Don Shula. And I don't know that organizations, and I'm not talking about Atlanta, I'm talking about any of them, the other 31, if you will. I don't know that the organizations want to play those cards right now without a lot of understanding of how much they control as opposed to what he controls, if that makes sense. And I think that's starting to come out a lot more than I anticipated it would. And I'm kind of fascinated by it, to be honest with you, because he's got a lot to offer an organization. But if it's got to be this en masse of people, I think that's tough. I think that's really tough for some of these teams to make that kind of dynamic change, to say, okay, he might be there, 3 years, 4 years? Because does he guarantee to you that he's going to – he's 72. He'll be 73 when the season starts. Is he going to tell you he's coaching to 78? I don't think we've had a coach in the NFL go to 78.
It's not as old as it used to be.
Yeah.
But you're almost there, George.
Yeah.
Shut up.
But
Kelly.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Plas? I mean, it's hard.
Yeah. Oh,
you take this guy at 72, and look, Raheem was here. He knows kind of the building. He knows the landscape. I was asked the other day, should they have hired him when he was the interim when they fired Dan Quinn? I don't know about that. I think he had to go to L.A. to work for McVay. Sean is a energy guy who put together a hell of a staff now. I mean, a hell of a staff.
Oh, absolutely.
And look at all the guys that have come off his staff to go be head coaches. Steichen is what? He's one of the latest, right? Did a great job this year in Indianapolis. I mean, I think there is some value. And Kelly, you'll appreciate this. I think the league now is about positive reinforcement from the head coaching position, not negative reinforcement.
Well, it's turning, man. I mean, all these kids coming out of college, I've talked about it a lot on this show, man. You got a different kind of kid that's coming from high school going to college. And then when they go to college, I mean, they transferred everywhere. So it's a different time and era with stuff. And I mean, I'm kind of an old school guy, but I totally get where I totally get where you come from. So my last deal is being a quarterback.
Yes, sir. You want to come? Are you interested in an invite? Is that what you're bucking
50,
for?
man. I can still throw 50. It, but I don't want to get hit.
Hell, I do games with Archer. He can still shoot it a little bit down the field. You can too. Don't act like you can't shoot it. You can still shoot.
I can still throw it. I can still hit a fly off a fly still, but I don't want to get hit now. I'm just going to tell you that. But does Desmond Ridder get another shot?
Oh, I don't rule out anything here. I don't rule out. Look, with Zach Robinson coming in here as the offensive coordinator, not knowing him very well, but knowing a little bit about his story personally, Kelly, I don't rule out anything here because I think Desmond Ridder is wired. And look, he was wired to win at Cincinnati. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't go from being smart to stupid, right? It's just, and you know how it works. Sometimes the music and the symphony doesn't work, right? The guy who conducts the music and the symphony, it just doesn't go. And that could be part of Desmond's situation. I mean, the voice talking to him, look, Luke Fickell can coach. We know that, right? He had an offensive staff that was a juggernaut. And Desmond played with talented guys, and he had talented guys here. So I don't rule that out. However, George, I would say this. I think that Atlanta wants to take this move, and if they want to maximize the timing on this, Kelly, you probably need to go find you a veteran guy who's done it. Now, is that Kirk Cousins? That's a name that's wildly popular here. I think for a guy that tore his Achilles, I think he's going to be highly sought after by probably 3 or 4 teams to come in and be a factor for them in 24. I think Kirk is a fascinating match in Atlanta with Bijan Robinson, Billy, throwing those curveballs with Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. Plus, Atlanta got better on defense last year. Atlanta got a lot better on defense because they committed the capital and free agency to get guys like Jesse Bates and David Onyemata and Caden Ellis and guys who can make plays.
Wes, I got one for you.
I'm just going to say, Wes, I apologize, man. That was my last one, but I apologize. George, man. I'm sorry.
Wow. That's really nice.
All right, Billy. Is that a Murray State pullover, by the way?
It is.
Apparently, it's free.
It was a freebie. I'll say that.
What the hell's wrong with free, George?
Oh, no.
What you're wearing right there, George, you didn't pay for that. You're wearing.
No, I did not. No, you're exactly right. I didn't.
Wes, obviously, being from North Carolina, it feels like a little bit of the pride of the ACC. It's historically great basketball league, football-wise, of course, right now. A lot of talk about, who might leave, who might come in. From you growing up in that area on the Atlantic coast, what's your take on all this? And who leaves, who goes? What do you think?
Well, first of all, the basketball situation in the ACC is not nearly what it's being portrayed nationally, Billy. The net is a faulted element that the NCAA has put out there. And I can give you 2 or 3 schools as examples who are in the top 25 of the net, top 30 of the net, who until they got into league play, I'm not sure they played anybody with a sanctioned, basketball program. Dave Archer's my best friend on radio who I do the Falcons with. He went to Iowa State, and I heard how great Iowa State was. And then I looked at their non-conference schedule, and they played everybody but, like Georgia's pickup league from Nashville 25 years ago. It was unbelievable to look at Iowa State and look at TCU's non-conference. It's embarrassing. So the ACC is pretty good. Carolina is very good. I think Duke is on the ascent. I think they're getting healthy, which will make them better as February unfolds. I tell you this, Wake Forest will scare you. Miami will scare you. I had Clemson last night. I think Clemson is very good. There's some teams that are going to make an impact in the NCAA tournament. This ridiculousness that John Rothstein's tweeted out in the last 72 hours about 2 teams, we're going to have to get John to a medical professional for a double down here. He's lost his mind. And I think he's also hustling for clicks a little bit because he counters with the Mountain West. I think the Mountain West is a good league, but come on now. I mean, we're talking about the ACC. I think the ACC and the SEC are right behind the Big 12. And I really like where the SEC is. I had Kentucky and Louisville in December. I've watched Tennessee a couple times. I had Mississippi State back in November. I think Alabama's really good, especially when they play at home. And Lamont Paris, he's got a Southern Conference transfer portal basketball team that is second in the SEC. I mean, his basketball team, George, is the transfer portal of the Southern Conference.
You're exactly right.
God love him. I mean, God love him. Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job. And I like those 6 teams on the screen right there. I see those 6 teams all making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, sure looked like it.
Yeah, and Tom Hart's a friend of mine. And we talk about the comparison between the leagues. I mean, I think there's a lot more in the ACC and the SEC than the common man is being led to believe, especially when, golly, America's ingenuity, Joe Lunardi cuts loose a bracket every day in January. I mean, we're a little early on the bracket.
Last night's a perfect example with Tech's upset.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech's 3 ACC wins are Clemson in double overtime and Duke and Carolina and Atlanta. I mean, think about that. Now, Plaz, I can't speak to the old gold and black, brother. I can't do it.
Don't get me started.
I know.
So let me say thank you in
this is it? We're done? I thought it was an hour. I've been on this new show. How long have you been doing this damn thing again?
You've been on before.
And I've not been on this. Absolutely.
Are you serious?
Not. 0.
Well, then you'll be back on next week for the continuation of the anthology series.
The anthology? What are you talking about?
Okay, so
get on here. Is Watson on today, by the way? I know
Watson is not on today, but if he were, he would send his best.
Is Bargatze on here? Is Ron coming on?
He'll be on tomorrow.
Do you know what? He helped my wife meet Nate in Atlanta.
Oh, really?
I haven't. I called Coach B.
Yeah.
My wife Vicky became a huge, and I am too, a huge fan of Nate Bargatze.
He hilarious.
Oh my God. Sensational. We saw his show the first night in Atlanta of the 2 nights that were sold out. And he was nice enough to allow us to come back and meet him and and you know what he said? I listened to you when I was a kid growing up, and I walked out of there feeling old as hell. But anyway.
He threw that same thing at me. I think what we should do, though, is give him a little material. Okay? 2 words for him to take and run with. Do you know what those 2 words are?
No, I'm scared to ask. Golly.
Hoopty sauce.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
That's an inside joke, folks.
Oh, bless us.
But I can tell you that the first time we ever met up on the way back from Lexington, those words came up. Did they not?
Affirmative.
Yeah.
Affirmative.
We need off the air stories of that.
Oh my God.
Of that ride.
Let me just tell you this. My friend Tim Hasselbeck, who I did football with this year, is the new coach at Edgeworth School, as you guys know.
And you have given him some good pub on that.
Oh my God, I love the guy. We had a wonderful fall together. It was a blessing to work with him. And so I'm coming to Nashville to play golf with Tim at some point. Since, George, I know your golf game is probably still on sabbatical.
You need to have me out with you.
Okay. George, your game on sabbatical, I remember it was alive at one point.
It was not. It's never been great.
Wes's game is dead.
To quote Mark DeRosa, here's a new goal for you. Just be relevant. So, Wes, I don't know if you've heard this story, but what the heck? Since we're doing an anthology series.
Wait a second. Do we have to take a word from my cousin Bart Durham? Okay.
Not yet. Not yet. So David Cutcliffe at the SEC meetings told me he had not been to the new stadium. So we set up that we were going to meet in August, Braves Yankees. Well, it turns out that Francoeur had been recruited by Cutcliffe at Ole Miss.
True.
And so they knew each other. So anyway, we go up before the game, and I have gotten to know Brandon in Cincinnati, perhaps at a blackjack table.
Gordon?
And yes. Yes, he went with Jeffrey and I.
Yeah. He was the one. He was the one that was civilized that night.
He was.
Yeah.
So anyway, that night, the Smoltz is holding a press conference. He is just grilling Cutcliffe football questions.
Smoltz is?
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
And all of a sudden,
loves the game.
Yes. All of a sudden, DeRosa walks in. He's doing the game for MLB Network, and he walks in, and Jeff goes, "Does this guy look familiar?" DeRosa looks at me. No. Jeff goes, "Look again." No. And I gritted my teeth and I said, "You told me to be relevant." And all of a sudden the pilot light went on and he burst out laughing. He's like, "Oh my God."
So
he said, "I do remember you."
So you've probably heard that there is the River Club 4-ball that takes place, a unauthorized, unsanctioned, non-televised event.
Not a live event.
No, not a live event, just unauthorized and unsanctioned. It's really important, Kelly, that it's unsanctioned and unauthorized and non-televised for sure. So there's Francoeur, there's DeRosa, there's McCann. Back in the day, there was Joey Devine, who pitched for the Braves, and now is an agent. Every once in a while, they'd have guest appearances. Matt Ryan would show up. And what we're talking about here is like yourself, Kelly, unlike George and me, highly skilled professional athletes playing golf, right?
Yeah.
So the average T-ball, the average drive, Billy will like this, was 310.
Yeah.
Oh my
310. Okay. Now, when you bring Larry to the table, Chipper, the average drive went up to about 320. But when Chipper hits it, you have to oftentimes get a police helicopter to find it.
Or look in the woods.
Not sure where it's going, huh?
Well, they all live in that same complex.
Yeah, Chipper's
and I remember
into town. Yeah, it's crazy. Hero, Francoeur, McCann, all those guys are in the River Club.
Well, they are River Club season ticket holders.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. It's 11 months a year now. They're 11 months a year.
Maybe not this month.
Probably not, but they because Francoeur went to Cabo in December because he couldn't play in Atlanta. I was like, really, you're killing me here. I'm off doing bowl games and meaningless non-conference basketball that hundreds of people watch. So
should we send him this?
No, Don, you bring him on his own. Probably you and I ought to do. We ought to be a guest on the Pure Athlete podcast that he's now doing.
I have not been.
When you think of Pure Athletes, Blast,
right? I'm one of the top 5 all-time Greek athletes.
Gosh.
All right, you guys call anytime. You know that, George. It's great
Wes,
to see you. Congratulations on this, by the way. Congratulations.
No, let's do it the other way. Congrats on all the stuff you're doing. I have loved.
Nice.
I sat and watched that entire, what was it, Clemson? No,
Kentucky?
Virginia Tech. No, a week ago. You were at Virginia Tech.
Oh, Virginia Tech and Boston College.
Boston College. Not the greatest game.
I ought to get you a Nielsen box of
that.
Not
the greatest game, but I was fascinated by watching you weave Boeheim in. And
it was fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
We've had some good runs. Oh, it's fun for me. Happy to do it anytime. You know that.
Hoopty sauce.
George,
go ahead, George.
So he used to do this thing. We'll end it with this. I'll do it. Where there was an older gentleman that would call our show, and here's how it sounded.
Call George. Joe there with you today. I want to talk about Vanderbilt when Red Sanders coached Vanderbilt. That's the last damn time we were good.
Oh, that's
Kelly, remember, I was 27 years old.
Yes.
Fresh from Huntington, West Virginia, is the newly entrusted voice of the Commodores. And this guy, Red Sanders. I think Red Sanders is 70 years ago. What are we doing?
It's the Colonel's nephew.
Meanwhile, I was just hoping the football team would cross 50 at Ole Miss. which they did. So we move on.
All right. Behave. Oh, he is a piece of work. God love him. A total smart aleck. He and I hit it off huge when we finally met up. That ride back from Lexington, one of the funniest rides I've ever taken.
Should have recorded it.
Oh, no, we shouldn't have. Plaster bet of the day, such as it is coming up next.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Final segment on a Wednesday. Got some SEC action tonight. Vandy is at Auburn, Alabama at Georgia. We've also got Florida at Kentucky tonight. So we'll see if the the thrillers continue in the SEC. But first, bet of the day, brought to you by Bart Durham, Wes's cousin. Kidding. Bart Durham Injury Law. Give him a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, let's see what went down last night.
Yes, let's do.
You got Ole Miss, but Ohio State couldn't cover against Illinois.
I'm going to tell you what.
They're at home, though. They're at home. That's what he said yesterday, wasn't it, Billy?
Yeah.
They're at home, though.
Ohio State's just not very good.
There's going to be a coaching change at Ohio State.
Well, you know what I've heard?
At the end of the year.
I've heard a little bit of and this buzz and rumors. Kelly likes this.
Yes, he does.
Chris Holtman, from some pretty knowledgeable people, might be a good fit at Vandy if he gets let go by Ohio State. Just keep that one in the memory bank.
Yes, tomorrow I will list about 6 potential candidates under the assumption that there's going to be a coaching change at Vandy at the end of the year.
This will be interesting.
You have to assume it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ohio State thing sucked. They really were not very competitive.
What did they lose by 7 or something? Or it wasn't a blowout.
It was worse than that. It was double digits.
Oh, wow.
Like 12. Ole Miss, on the other hand, you don't hear Kelly say a thing about that one.
I didn't say anything about that one yesterday. I just said Ohio State got boat raced by Northwestern. But they're at home.
They're at home.
It's different. They're at home.
But see, I don't ever hear that I said yesterday that I felt much more positive about Ole Miss.
You did. Yeah. I agree.
Right. But why did you say that?
I give you props for that. You did say that. You felt much more at ease with Ole Miss than Ohio State. But you popped off your mouth saying they're at home. It's different when they're at home.
You were never going to bring it up. Always looking for the negative. And my fear is that Wes may have fueled even more of this in you. Is he not a beauty?
Wes was. I met him down there that day. Chip introduced me to him when we walked in. I don't think I was he still doing the Georgia Tech games, or was he just there for that game?
You know, I don't remember.
I think for some reason he said that he had just the guy that was there had to do something, and they had him come back on for some reason. I don't know, but I just remember that Middle beat the absolute dog.
Yeah.
Out of Georgia Tech, and the referees kept them in the game with some questionable calls. But they beat them so bad that the referees couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. On to tonight. We have 2 plays. 2.
Okay.
Kentucky at home. Rupp Arena is one tough place to play.
I'll give you that.
Whether they cover or not, they're definitely going to win. But I think they're going to cover 5.5. And then it's on to World War VI with Tennessee Saturday night at Rupp. Anybody got any extra tickets? Let me know. I'd love to go.
That's going to be a great one.
Oh,
yeah, for free, huh? For free, George, you wouldn't pay anything?
I mean, for a nominal fee. Below market price, below asking
price.
Because I'll guarantee you, you know what? We need to check that on Friday. Oh, I bet it'll cost a pretty penny to get in old Rupp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's game number 2. Indiana State is really good. And to be honest, their coach might be one that ought to be on Vandy's list. I don't know that much about him, but I know this. He's done a good job at Indiana State. They are at the top of that conference. This is a measuring stick game for Belmont at home. Where do they stack up with the top of the Missouri Valley Conference? They're going to find out tonight. I don't know if they win or not, but I think they cover 9.5. It's been a long time since Belmont has been a 9.5-point dog at the Curb Center. I'll be honest, I wish that this game were on another night. I would love to have gone to this. I'm going to the Preds, but I'm going to pay close attention.
Indiana State's.
Yes, likes Indiana State. He's got them. Are they in the top 25, Billy?
No, but they're top 40.
40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Andy Katz got him in his top 25. I was looking at stuff yesterday, just strolling through stuff, and he really likes Indiana State, man, the home of Larry Bird, baby. I had to go to a practice there. There's nothing in Terre Haute, Indiana, so don't bother me.
He is the Hick from French Lick.
The Hick from French Lick, and he can ball, though. Good gracious.
I've done a game there. When you do a game at Indiana State, you are on the moon. Way up there. So, Billy, let me think. Where was I going? I've just had a senior moment. It obviously wasn't that important. We'll see you tomorrow. Mark McGee will join us. Ron Bargatze will join us. I will give you about 6 names that might ought to be on Vandy's list as they attempt to find a coach to get this program where it needs to be. See you tomorrow.